In less fun news, let me get started with a new report coming out of Uvalde, Texas. The massacre that happened at Robb Elementary now 8 months ago, where 19 elementary school age children were gunned down along with two of their teachers by an 18-year-old mass shooter who himself also killed that day. I can't remember. I think I intentionally blocked some details about the story out of my head because it continues just to boggle the mind and deeply trouble the soul as to how people are capable of such horrific things. But the massacre itself likely would not has have been as bad as it was if the hundreds of officers assembled there who were there armed to the teeth, who saw the shooter enter the school and waited over an hour before broaching the classroom where the mass shooter had barricaded himself, likely costing a dozen, 10, 8, doesn't matter. They cost lives because of their unwillingness to go in and save children as they were being shot to death by an AR-15 rifle. And therein lies the crux of the cowardice, apparently. Will pop up the Texas Tribune article for me if you could. The Texas Tribune, if you're not familiar with the independent media outlet based out of Texas, get familiar because the Texas Tribune really does some high quality reporting, especially in the face of the conservative nonsense that, belagers the state of Texas. If you are a brown or black person who happens to live in Texas, my condolences because I know the black and brown culture is popping, but that cracker culture is way more popping down there in Texas. And getting back to the crux of this report that comes out of Uvalde, courtesy of the Texas Tribune, the headline reads, quote, "He had a battle rifle. Police feared Uvalde gunman's AR-15." And I love the way that the Texas Tribune has framed a lot of this reporting. I am not reading propaganda when I read through this piece. It is very well done. Hold on, let me pick it up here where I wanted us to begin. It said almost a year after Texas' deadliest school shooting killed 19 children and two teachers, there's still a lot of confusion among investigators, law enforcement leaders, and politicians as to how nearly 400 law enforcement officers could have performed so poorly. People have blamed cowardice or poor leadership or a lack of sufficient training wi- as to for why police waited more than an hour to breach the classroom and subdue an amateur 18-year-old adversary. You better read these fuckers down, Texas Tribune. 400, thank you for framing it that way, Texas Tribune. 400 cops waited an hour before breaching the classroom to subdue an 18-year-old amateur adversary, an amateur, a fucking child themselves. Hold on, let me get here. Hold on, I'm getting too excited. A Texas Tribune investigation based on police cameras, emergency communications, and interviews with investigators that have not been made public, or rather, that have been made public, found that police had concluded that pardon me, that the police had concluded that immediately confronting the gunman would have been too dangerous. Even though some officers were armed with the same rifle, they opted to wait for the arrival of a Border Patrol SWAT team that had more protective body armor, stronger ballistic shields, and more tactical training, even though that Border Patrol SWAT team unit was based more than 60 miles away. Quote, "You know that it was definitely an AR," said Uvalde Police Chief Department Sergeant Donald Page, said in an interview with investigators after the school shooting. "There was no going in. We had no choice but to wait and to try to get something that had better coverage where we could actually stand up to him. Hold on. There's other parts of this that I wanted to get to you because there's a lot of blame. Police Chief Arredondo, Pete Arredondo, obviously fired back in August, said that they were going to get a lot of scrutiny. But hold on. Let me get to this. Pardon me one moment, everybody. I'm sorry because it's a lengthy piece and they've got some good points here. All right, picking it up. It said the hesitation to confront the gun allowed the gunman to terrorize students and teachers in 2 classrooms for more than an hour without interference from police. It delayed medical care for more than 24 gunshot victims, including those who were still alive when the Border Patrol team finally arrived at the school. And when the Border Patrol team finally ended the shooting, but then 24 students later died, or 24 gunshot victims rather later died. And the piece goes on to talk about how mass shooting protocols by law enforcement nationwide, it calls on officers to stop the attack as soon as possible. But police in other mass shootings, including the Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, police there in those 2 instances also hesitated to confront the gunman armed with AR-15 style rifles. So let's be clear here, guys. I mean, this report is likely not telling us anything new per se. And there is some video that I want to show you guys, courtesy of the Texas Tribune, that sort of backs this up. And I appreciate, we'll go ahead and get that queued up for us because. And let me give a trigger warning. Obviously, we know what happened at Robb Elementary. We know what happened in Uvalde. Fortunately, this video that we're going to hear, I listened to it and I saw it. I didn't hear any sounds of people getting shot. You hear the gun obviously going off. You hear the AR-15 rifle being shot. But mainly what you're going to hear is police dialogue and the ways that the cops, even though it was a million of the motherfuckers, stood around with their dicks in their hands and was so concerned about their own safety that they didn't give a fucking shit about the safety of the students that were being mowed down. And even worse, these same police are the ones that arrested, detained, refused to allow parents to go into the school and rescue their own children. So anyway, let's cue up the video. Let's check this out as part of the investigation done by the Texas Tribune. You don't oh, okay. You don't have it, Will? Okay, let's give Will
What sticks out in my mind was
together.
the amount of smoke, gun smoke that was inside the hallway. And I told the guys, hey, be careful, we're in the kill zone. Because I knew he had shot through the walls.
Careful, guys, shot fire.
I'm just waiting for those rounds to hit me. Right when we got to where we thought he was at, then gunfire. You know, I knew too, it wasn't a pistol. I knew it was a rifle. I was like, shit, it's a rifle. The way he was shooting.
Take cover, guys.
He's probably going to take all of us out.
Take.
Cover. Have a real subject with an AR.
You know what kind of gun?
No, man, they are. Here's about right. That'd be really.
What's the safest way to do this? I'm not trying to get clapped out.
Me neither.
You knew that it was definitely a AR 223 round. You could see the shell casings. We had no choice but just to wait and try to get something that had better coverage where we could actually stand up to him.
I called for long rifles. I know that. I don't know what words I used, but I knew we needed to get a whole bunch of those over there because I didn't have one, and I don't recall if Lieutenant Martinez even had one when we walked up.
Stop my truck, take out my AR, get it ready. I know there's schools going on. You're going to be shooting me. I need my AR.
Man.
Safe.
Careful, brother. He shot Javi through the door.
Had anybody gone through that door,
Yes, sir.
he would have killed whoever it was.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we can only carry so many ballistic vests on you. That 223 round would have gone right through you and through the door.
I want to get the door open. What am I going to do? It might as well be paper.
Got one more shield. I don't think it's ballistic though, but I got one more. You guys want another one? There's one more outside.
I called for a shield, but our shields are, I don't think they're AR rated. They're more handgun rated. They're lightweight. Without maybe a ballistic, I feel like we're in that fatal funnel. Over there we're gonna get you killed.
Vortex showed up and they had this humongous shield. I mean, it was a thick shield. Once they went in, we heard a lot more gunfire. Then all I heard was they said that the shooter was down.
We're going to get scrutinized. I'm expecting that. We're going to get scrutinized why we didn't go in there. I know what the firepower he had based on what shells I saw, the holes in the wall in the room next to his. And I know this is horrible, and I know this is what our training tells us to do, but we haven't contained. There's probably going to be some deceased in there, but we don't need any more from out here.
All right. Those body cam images and those interviews are just so telling. And I hope truly that the incident in Uvalde would have been, and hopefully still will be, enough to really turn people into abolitionists. Because if not protecting the most innocent lives of children, if the police aren't willing to step in and do that, then the fuck are they there for? Well, we know what they're there for. They're there to contain the black and brown communities, to contain poverty, poor people in their designated areas, and to make sure that property and the interests of the oligarchs and the wealthy are always protected. But the mythology that police are heroes still remains very ingrained into into how regular Americans really perceive police. I mean, we see this even in mostly black and brown occupied neighborhoods by police. We'll see our own folks asking for more police, right? Makes me want to bang my head up against the wall. But this display of outright cowardice, dereliction of duty, an abandonment to allow innocents to continue to perish while they stood around in the hallways and checked their phones and tackled mothers trying to enter the building to save their own children. I mean, just an extreme example of the typical abdication of the supposed motto to protect and serve that we see routinely from police. But what happened in Uvalde was a horrific exaggeration of exactly that. Now, what is happening in Uvalde right now? What's up, Infinite Content? Infinite Content ran at some bucks. Appreciate you, babe. Infinite Content says those cops were more concerned about being shit over the lives. Yup. Oh, about being shot over the lives of these babies and teachers. It burns my spirit. It burns my spirit as well. But you guys, so obviously with this coming within a year of Uvalde, right? So this year's Texas legislative session saw a bunch of bills introduced, right, that would allegedly help to prevent this type of scenario from happening again. Oh, by the way, another thing interesting, I'm gonna get back to this, but really quick. Something interesting that came out of the Texas legislature that Greg Abbott, the governor there, was bragging about is a new bill or new law that would prosecute people who deal fentanyl with murder. Do I have that right? Or would subject him to the death penalty, something ridiculously extreme. And it's like, people are going to do the drugs, but you could actually do something, attempt to do something about guns and the access to AR-15 military style rifles. These officers, these cops in Uvalde are afraid of a weapon that is commercially available for retail sale in the country. Millions of AR-15 rifles are on the streets of America, and police say, hey, if another elementary school gets attacked by somebody wielding these kinds of weapons, well, good luck, kids. Bagheera is furious. Bagheera is very upset about this. I want us to take a look really quick, if we could, at a package. Of course, I'm going to show y'all a package, but this is coming out of Texas, and this is actually from a couple of months ago because I obviously support the parents in Uvalde who have experienced this horrific tragedy that is going to be with them for truly the rest of their lives. But the politicians are not proposing good solutions here. And I know that's not a shock to anybody, but if you're watching this show from outside of the US, I mean, there are never no good solutions coming from elected officials to deal with these enormous societal problems that we have. So this is actually going to be from a reporter, Ryan Carpenter from KXAN. And it says families from Uvalde and Santa Fe, the mass shooting that occurred in Santa Fe, bonded over the loss of their children to gun violence, stood again at the Texas Capitol to announce 3 more school safety bills with Roland Gutierrez, who is a state senator from Texas. I'm assuming Senator Gutierrez is a Democrat. And these are neoliberal bullshit solutions, and I understand why the parents want to support something rather than nothing. But this is the problem with Democrats. Anyway. I'm gonna play the shit. I'm gonna let y'all hear what Senator Gutierrez is proposing, and we'll come back and talk about it. Let's check out that piece, please.
The message from families who lost their children in Texas school shootings was clear. They fear more families will join them next session if Texas does not take action this year. That's why they stood with State Senator Roland Gutierrez, as they plan to do every week, to announce a new series of bills aimed at preventing the next shooting.
And we're here, all of us, Santa Fe and Uvalde. We stand together, hopefully, so that no other family in this godforsaken state has to do this.
Families bonded by loss, hoping for progress. Uvalde State Senator Roland Gutierrez invites them to the Capitol every week to continue their calls.
This is personal to me. These people deserve more than what they got. Their little babies deserve more than what they got. And by God, we need to do something.
Gutierrez announcing 3 new bills. The first would put an extra police officer in every school in Texas, asking for $750 million to create the Texas School Patrol with 10,000 officers.
Each parent should be able to send their kids to school knowing that they're going to be able to pick them up at the end of the day. We can afford to do this, and we should do this.
Another implements new requirements for mass shooting training and radio functionality after communication failures contributed to a delayed response at Robb Elementary.
Not one damn radio worked inside that building. Not one radio.
Lastly, proposing a memorial to victims of mass gun violence to be erected on the Capitol grounds and in the current spot of a monument to the Confederacy.
And we plea for these changes, that you hear us and that you see us and that you acknowledge the pain that these families that stand behind me and those who could not make this journey today are feeling and living every day.
And Senator Gutierrez said next week he'll announce a series of bills focused directly on access to firearms, which he called the common denominator in the school shootings Texas has seen. From the state capitol, I'm Ryan Chandler.
One police officer in every single Texas public school, a 10,000 police officer strong Texas school force to the tune of $750 million. I swear. How would we be able to differentiate the Democrats from the Republicans if they didn't wear the little donkeys on their lapels? You know what I'm saying? They both wear the American flag pins. I mean, what the fuck kind of solution is that? There were 400 officers at the school. I'm sorry, you think adding one more would have made the difference in saving the lives of these children? You don't have a training problem. You don't have a funding problem with police. You have a character problem. You have a bravery problem. You have a hypermachismo problem where you got all these motherfuckers that are armed to the teeth. They got $35,000 of equipment dangling off their ass every single day. And the only smoke that they have it for is for black and brown drivers who have shit dangling from their rearview mirrors. Like, we need to erase this mythology around police heroism as though it is just some universal, unique character gift that is only bestowed to members of law enforcement. They show us time and time again that they are fucking cowards. They are softer than scrotum skin out here. But we have to tell the others, you know what I'm saying? That is what our mission is. That is what our duty is. We have to disavow our folks of viewing police as the ways to end crime, as the ways to stop crime, as the solution to the end of violent crime. These motherfuckers had one target, one single target. 18 years old, just bought the fucking gun, the week before? And he was too much. He was too much for the 400 trained officers there in Uvalde. He was too much for the Border Patrol SWAT team. He was too fucking much. And it was asking too much for at least one of those officers to say, I'm going to risk injury and or death in order to put my life on the line for these children. They are not willing to do that. And the Supreme Court, by the way, says that by law, they are not mandated to do that. If an officer feels as though his life would be in danger in an attempt or in a scenario in which he could potentially save the life of another, he is not legally obligated to risk his life to save that of another citizen, even children. So why do police get all the money? What the fuck are they doing with the money? Some of these bills, hold on, I have a couple things here, because in the Texas legislature, because first of all, none of these bills are likely going anywhere, okay? The gun lobby in Texas is very strong, to the point where, like, the Texas Gun Rights Group or Gun Rights Coalition or whatever put out some attack ads towards Ken Paxton, I think, who is the is Paxton the attorney general or the lieutenant governor? I get these Bamas confused sometimes. But members of Greg Abbott's team basically, threatening them that if they try to put forth some gun control legislation, that there will be consequences. So here we go. SB 1736 would close the gun show loophole, and it would require gun sellers to do mandatory background checks on potential buyers. That is amazing to me that you can walk into a gun show in Texas and not have to submit currently to a background check. You could just walk out there with whatever the fuck, huh? How come, do y'all live in Texas? Are y'all going to these gun shows and walking out of there with whatever the fuck? If you're able to, I encourage you to do that. Because when the shit kicks off, we gonna need some armaments. Anyway, SB 1737 puts a ban on expanding bullets, meaning the bullets that break apart into fragments or even like maybe even the hollow points or something like that, once they hit a particular target, those bullets do tremendous damage, irreparable damage to the human body. SB 1739 would be life with parole, pardon me, life without parole for school shooters, which of course would have done nothing to ameliorate the situation there in Uvalde because the shooter there took his own life. The cops there didn't even kill him. Ain't that a bitch? Couldn't even neutralize the own shooter yourselves. You had 400 guns out there, 400 fucking dick holding fucking pigs who were unable to overcome their own cowardice. And to me, it is so heartless that they tried to prevent or prevented parents from going there and getting their own kids. Just smacks of inhumanity, no sense of decency whatsoever. So that's the story out of Uvalde. We are going to keep an eye on the Texas legislature to at least see if anything gets done. But again, Greg Abbott and the rest of Texas gun culture, conservative gun culture, especially, I mean, to them, I mean, this is the cost of freedom. This is the price of freedom. They get to have their AR-15s and children die in their classrooms. That to them is an even exchange. That to me is part of the madness of really exclusively white supremacy. If we're going to be keeping it a buck, like this is the domain of the derangement that comes with knowing how much power the gun gives you and the historical might of the gun, especially when it comes to settling non-white places into colonies, right? The gun is what did that. And the notion of banning any gun is an attack on their identity, on their freedom to do and have and possess whatever their hearts desired. There's something really off about Americans, and I can't anyway. Just this entitlement, this grandiose sense of self that does not extend to the greater community, especially those who do not match up their same age, gender, sexual orientation, religious demographic. Anything outside of that demographic, they don't even see it, dog. They don't see it. They don't recognize it as human. If it infringes upon their rights, and don't get me wrong, you guys know I'm a big Second Amendment person. I'm definitely pro-gun. I don't need no fucking AR-15 unless well, anyway, let me shut up. let me shut up. But I don't need no AR-15, man. Don't need it. Don't need it. The aim with the 9 mil is perfectly fine. Abolish the police, everybody. We have to go on our own propaganda offensive, okay, to dissuade communities, just to dissuade our own communities, to dissuade our own family and friend circles, not to look so lovingly and um so trustingly upon the police and their actions and who they are and what they stand for and what they represent. We have to disavow our people of these beliefs as soon as possible, because it's undeserved, the amount of respect that the police command within America. And just look at by judge them by their actions. And in Uvalde, especially judge them by their inactions and the amount of people, especially children, that were made to suffer for the police cowardice.